Hello people, and welcome back to episode 10, I believe already. I can't believe we're into 10 episodes of this now, of the City Skylines build guide. And I hope you enjoyed the little time lapse before this, and the introduction of a first rail network within Berguzia. I decided to off camera a little detail, and it's just to hook up a couple of train stations linking the two towns. Now this is definitely not the way to link these two towns together, because they are within such close proximity, so there really is no need for trains, and you can see that both of the stations are getting relatively low usage, but it'll be nice to have this in place for when we do eventually introduce proper train transport into the city. And you can see that the rail now follows the length of the highway and works its way under the interchange, which I think will look really nice when we do a little bit of detailing around here. And you can also see at the moment we are having enormous garbage issues across the city right now, and that is because we had this bar here quite a way in the red, which I had failed to notice, and that's just because last episode we worked on obviously increasing our population around here, and also houses are leveled up, which is going to increase our population as well, so that's just going to create more garbage in the city and just, yeah, make more garbage in the city basically. So there is two ways we can combat that. You can either place in more recycling centres, garbage dumps and incinerators, and I've placed a recycling centre here just behind the fire helicopter depot, just to kind of service this side of town. But you do need to remember though that these things do pollute, so you don't really want them near residences or any kind of water pumping station, so just bear that in mind when you are placing them. We've talked about that before. And there is also something else we can do. If we come into policies of the area, we can actually take the recycling, which is going to be slightly reduced garbage accumulation and slightly reduced tax income. So I think this area can justify it. If you remember, I said I wanted this area to be quite nice, really clean and quite rich. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the recycling policy to it. And I'm just going to go ahead now, actually let's leave it up here. I just want to shave back a little bit of this district, because today there is going to be a new one. So get your comments down below for naming this new fancy rich tourist part of town. And this is going to be Berguzia Lake. So let's go ahead and paint all this in. There's going to be a zoo in here as well. So thanks to Jasif for your recommendation, my friend. We are going to build that today alongside some nice tourism fronts. So we've got kind of a natural feature that comes with this map here, and that is not going to be the Sheffield district. This is going to be Berguzia Lake. I need to capitalize lake. There we go. Okay, so I want them to be some nice houses here, so let's go ahead and kind of plan them out. Alright, so I've been kind of playing with a couple of ideas off camera, and I think I know what I'm going to go for here. I'm going to have some roads come straight out. I'm just going to delete that pattern right there. And then have this road come probably to about there for right now. And let's go ahead and box these off. So the distance between there and there is 1,000. Yeah, that's the right distance that I want. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to come into the middle, about here. And then I'm going to draw a little circle. So you can do this with your curve tool, coming out by 5 points, and then just snap in into the node of each, and then that'll give you a pretty much perfect circle. And obviously you can just scale this for how big you want the circle to be. It really is up to you how you want your city to look. I have made that the wrong shape. There we go, that's right. So as I was saying, you don't always have to have, you know, perfectly gridded residential areas. You can kind of play with them come up with a few different ideas. So I think I'm going to be happy with that shape for right now. And I wonder if we can actually bring this. So that's 1020. Let's go ahead and make this the right type of road. Okay. And I'm going to upgrade these kind of entry points and main crossroads into the road with trees. Okay. And then this one here, I'm just going to bring down a nice curve so it hooks up and gives people a different entry point onto the residential area. That's going to occupy this area. Let's go ahead and give them some water. That's going to hook them up nicely. Okay, so I think we get some really nice looking houses in here. So let's have a look at our policies and Begusia Lake. Now we do have, under city planning, we have some high-tech housing, which is going to turn homes into much cooler, smarter homes to raise the land value around them. It's going to increase the land value, however each residential building is going to cost us $4 in upkeep. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that in. And let's see what else we can maybe give them to increase land value. We'll have recycling here as well. We'll also have parks and recreation. We'll also have recreational use. So this thing is going to increase tourism by quite a bit. It's going to reduce the crime rate, but it's going to increase our police budget by 15%, which doesn't really make sense when you think about it, but there you go. And then we're also going to have preferred parks as well. So all the parks in this area, including the zoo and the kind of park assets that we place, are going to look really sweet in the end as well. So let's go ahead and start planning out. So I only want really big chunky houses here. I don't want any small ones developing. We've got some nice big zonable blocks right on the corners of these circles. We're not going to have anything in the middle of them. We'll do some nice kind of path design with them. Let's paint these guys in as well. Up here. And then here as well. Probably along the back here. Would take out that 3. Don't really want them. And then up to here as well. So with this main road that kind of connects it to the rest of the city, I want these to be gated. And the academic year report from Belmont College is in. Place is doing well, bringing us lots of students into the city. And then about there. So just by picking and choosing your zoning within a residential area, you can really kind of give it a different feel to the rest of your cities. Let's see, where was that one? It's 1, 2, 3, 6, 8. So we'll come in by 4, then another 4, and then delete those 2 in the middle, and that's going to give us a perfectly reflected path. So we're getting some houses in now, and obviously right now these things look like crap because they're level 1. But don't worry, they will level up eventually. Let's go ahead and see if we can wait for some more houses to pop up here. Hopefully they will naturally connect to the grid, because I don't really want to destroy them. Destroy the zoning, I mean. I'm going to go ahead and take all the trees out of this side of the road, because I do want to do something. There's been a fire here. Well, there still is a fire, rather. It is still burning. There's a couple of things I need to show you on that side of town as well, where we developed it. Okay, so we can hook this up right now here until it does eventually hook up through this side of town, through here. Once these houses develop along there, it should hook up fairly nicely. We can also pop in a bit more zoning here now as well. That's just going to allow it to hook up a little bit easier. Okay. So right now, this car looks a little bit odd, which I totally agree with. Let's go ahead and delete all these little random bushes that are hanging around. As I said, I want this to be a nice gated community. So let's go ahead into our city park stuff, and I'm going to grab a park fence. And then I'm going to draw this all the way in, right along the main road, up to about there. And then the corners. So let's bring it down again to that third block. And then all the way again. I'm going to do some pretty nice looking kind of housing estate here. So where we live in England, we kind of have, I don't live here, these are like really expensive places to live, but we have some really nice kind of private gated communities for, they're not really retirement villages, but that's where all the old rich people go to die. After they've made their millions, this is where they live. Okay, so I'm going to add in a couple of these little dramatic looking trees into the entrance of these things. Okay. Let's leave it on 3 speed and watch some houses come in. So obviously right now these buildings are level 1, but because they have the high-tech housing policy on them, when they do hit their max levels, they will start to look pretty sweet. So let's go ahead and box off this fence in here as well. Let's bring this around here. So a little bit longer of a stretch. Here we go. And up to this corner. Just want to get it in as tight to the road as possible. And then this fence can just tail off into the forest. Okay, so while that's developing in the background, still not hooking up with power. Let's see if we can zone. It should hook up through here eventually when it does eventually decide it wants to do it. Let's kind of have a little discussion about the lakefront. So I do want a couple of tourist buildings here. I definitely want the marina. You know, people can come down. So I think I'm going to create the centre around this little castle fort that has developed here. So I think this will look, you know, people can come down to the lake on their weekend away, a weekend by the lake, and kind of take a boat out. And I think also, this is the restaurant, this is the fishing pier, isn't it? And where is the restaurant? Here it is, the restaurant pier. This can probably sit down here as well. Of course, we'll need to hook everything up to the water grid. And then we'll have one coming right through the middle. And then we'll also need to plan for our zoo, which will sit here as well. I've left the tiniest little space unwatered. There we go. Okay. So I also want the commercial in this area. And we've hit big city. Wonderful. Population of 11,000. So we unlock a new space, which is going to be the start of our downtown. Visiting scholars, which is the policy that you can apply relating to universities. We also unlock the liberal arts stuff as well. And the water treatment stuff. Crematorium, which will be good for helping clear out the cemeteries, track and field, and the cryopreservatory. That's all part of the campus stuff, which we will come to cover eventually. Let's have a look here. So I want leisure to be the key theme of our commercial in this area. So I want to come ahead now and have a look at our unique buildings, and we do have a lot of plazas here. So you can only place these unique buildings once, hence the name of unique building. And I'm going to kind of think what would work well around here. Statue of Wealth would be quite good, I think. So we could get it in there, although the slope is too steep. So let's do a little bit of terraforming and see if we can just smooth out this this land that sits in the castle. I'm happy to have the castle raised. Maybe not by that much though. Let's just kind of push some of this back and smoothen the land a little bit. There we go. Okay, so we can get it in right here. Let's go ahead and place that. Okay, so I think that's a nice start. Now what I don't want to do is just zone all this with commercial, because that's just going to look really boring. So I think I'm going to bring up a road right alongside this plaza and then out just by about that much. And then I'm going to go ahead and zone this big block of commercial. And then maybe a little bit here. And some here as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw in, I think I'm actually just going to use the regular paths. A little bit of a pathway. So it's all about creating, obviously just hook up your temporary power lines. They will eventually connect in once you build this thing big enough. So I'm just going to think about little bits of design that I can bring in to this place to make it look a little bit more special. I think what I want to do with this thing here, I'm going to go to my park stuff, go into the nature reserve. I'm actually just going to, wonder if I can, oh, I can actually snap it to that. That's really cool. I'm going to use the nature reserve thing to box that off, so you know, it's like, you know, don't play on this when all people are drunk pouring out of the nightclubs along the lake. You don't really want them climbing all over the castle, so we can build a nice little fence around that. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a front developing here. I do want some buildings along the front, so let's go ahead and zone in a couple right near the centre, but I don't want to do it all. Let's have one here as well, and then I'm going to go ahead and draw in some paths probably up and around here. So that's going to link people through. As you can see, as you just start to place things, you'll start to get a nice little theme developing. Now I do also want to make a walk for people to enjoy. So I think right about here, I'm going to grab our dirt path and then just snake it around the lake, and then I'll leave it there because that can actually hook up into our zoo eventually. Okay, so we'll leave this to develop and let's work on our zoo. So I did actually paint out the park area beforehand. If we come into districts and then parks, we can see we've got this whole space here to work with. So now we've placed it in our housing estate, I need to reassess a little bit. And maybe we can come up to the highway with this zoo and push the zoning out a little bit here. So let's go ahead and make an entrance. I think I'm just going to make a little roundabout myself. Let's make sure our snapping is on. Let's come out by 360. I know I've just deleted that fence there, we can always replace that in a moment. And then I'm going to have again, this is kind of a roundabout themed episode, isn't it? And then we're going to have this here out by 300 each side, and there, and that's going to be the start of our zoo. Let's go into our parks, grab the zoo, let's grab the main building. I think I just want the small one. Let's have it there, and that is going to unlock the Cherry Wildlife Centre. So you guys again get down in the comments and start naming this thing for yourselves. So let's go ahead and first of all, as with any good park or zoo, is I'm going to map out kind of a little bit of zonage. That's 120. Let's come out the same amount again. Here. Okay, so now we have a nice little, almost like central plaza for people to come in. I'm actually going to go ahead and take some of these roads out and replace with the regular paths because they're a little bit too many trees for me. You guys can do it how you like. Let's go ahead and try and drop some buildings in here. So let's have a look what we have. We have a zoo plaza. This thing's pretty big, so we can't place that immediately here, although we can have it as a nice focal point as people enter the zoo. Followed up by a cafe. So as you're leaving or arriving, you can grab something to eat. And definitely a souvenir shop you would have here as well. And then we can have some restrooms right up along the side. Just kind of creating a little community. Focus as people enter the zoo before they reach the attractions. And we have our first attraction here of a moose and reindeer enclosure. So I think we'll go ahead and delete this path. So with the zoo assets, you can actually kind of place them. And I'll try and give a demonstration here. Let's place this as close to the key as we can get it. There we go. That kind of raises it up, which I don't know. I don't think I'm particularly happy about that actually. Let's push this back a little bit. And I'm happy for the zoo to be quite rocky. You know, it's kind of a natural landscape for the animals to live in. Let's go ahead and create a temporary hookup from our residential area. Okay. So you notice as we place the zoo buildings, they already have a path built around them. So that's really handy for actually just connecting them up. So I think we'll go ahead. Let's make a little path like that. That's going to connect people up. Okay. I think I'm going to place another building in here just to hook that power through. So right now everything looks a little bit spaced out, but don't worry, we will be decorating this. Okay, let's have a look at what other enclosures we had to play with. So we also had a birdhouse. This could be pretty cool. I think I'm just going to snap this straight onto the path of the deer and moose enclosure. So we've got a nice little kind of theme developing around here as well. We could even have some stuff down here so people drive past the zoo. And we have the Antelope Enclosure. And we can place this here. Let's go ahead and delete that and try and smoothen out this little bit of territory here. Let's try and make it as nice as possible so nothing is getting too much crazy terrain generation. Yeah, I don't think that place is going to work, is it? It's just naturally too uneven. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some more paths. Let's have a little look where we can place this. Let's maybe build. See, we might be able to squeeze the path in there. Now we're just out of the city limits, but that's fine. I'm not really bothered about having a path at the back. So you can see this is where we left the zoo, the lake path. Sorry, so people can walk around the lake. However, if we hook it up to the zoo, if they enter the zoo through this path and not through the main gate like we want them to over here, they won't be counted as visitors, which means that the park won't level up as quickly. It will still get visitors because people will come through this gate. But I think even though it doesn't count as a visitor, I do still want this to hook up so people have a reason to actually walk around the lake so we can see them moving in various different directions. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pop the Antelope Enclosure just along here. Now we're probably not going to take this zoo to the max level, purely because I want the kind of the big city zoo to be within. Let's go ahead and delete that. To be within the actual downtown itself, as opposed to kind of just out here near the lake. So we're going to keep it relatively small. You know, I want the animals to feel at home, even though they are virtual. But just to have them, you know, surrounded by woodlands and little rocks like this that are hanging around. That'd be a pretty nice place. And you know, if we're looking kind of from the lakeside here, it's a nice little feature to have. We've got people coming and going now. Okay, so we'll leave that to level up. We can see that it has its entertainment value by more than enough, and we also have a certain amount of visitors to hit, which we will. And then the same city park policies apply that we looked at in the second episode when we covered kind of parks, plazas. You can kind of add different things in here. Obviously, animal ethics is exclusive to zoos. It does boost the entertainment value, which I think for kind of the theme of this area that we're going for, we're going to go ahead and pop in the animal ethics policy as well. And that's going to make our zoo much more entertaining. See, now we've got a few little mascots moving around in here. Alligator mascot. It's kind of a little bit cruel, dressed as an alligator immediately outside of the deer and antelope enclosures. I don't think they're going to be too happy about that. You see the moose is eating. Yeah, it's a little bit cool. Got some. Also have the mascot, the chirper mascot, up here as well. So you got some pretty cool things walking around the zoos. So we've got some people coming and going here now as well. So we can leave that to develop, and that's going to flesh out this kind of side of the lake quite nicely. Let's have a look how this area is developing over here. This is pretty sweet, so I think we're ready for a little more kind of, that one's a little, we'll go for 3 deep there. And then here as well. Here. So we're ready for a little more residential zoning right now. We'll carry on filling this area out, and let's work on a little bit of a path design between these little roundabouts that we've got going on here. So we'll have one straight through the middle. I'm just using the city park paths, so they're probably the nicest looking paths in the game with the trees already built in. Through here. And we'll have one connects up to here, and of course I'll have to delete that fence, because it wouldn't really make sense to have, like, people will still walk through the fence even if your park path does connect to the pavement beyond it, but for kind of realistic purposes it looks a little bit silly to have it like that. So we've got some big chunks of zoning right along the back here as well, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab some dirt paths and link these spaces up now that we saved. See if we can maybe have another one through there, but we probably haven't left ourselves quite enough room. Let's go ahead and have one just there. And you'll slowly just start to flesh this area out with just little touches of detail over time. We can maybe actually have one through here. And then I'm just going to pack this area out. with a couple of splashes of the tree brush. Just also they have a nice little, we should be hooking up now, shouldn't it? Yeah, it is, so we can delete this power line. And that's just going to give a nice little wooded area feel. So you can see now as the houses are starting to level up, they are starting to look ever so slightly better, which is what we want here. Let's go ahead and continue just kind of not holding it down and painting like crazy like this. That's not what we want. I'm just going to kind of hover over and let's go ahead and delete those ones and just drop a couple of splashes along there. Okay, let's have a look if we have any other unique buildings we can pop in around here right now. So I think a stadium will be a little bit overkill. We do have the vanilla zoo, but we don't want to place that here. So we do have this thing, a traffic park. Now I never actually placed this in Fremwood, so let's have a look what it does. Children come to the traffic park to learn traffic signs and rules. This is a landmark building. So it has a 350 visitor capacity. And it provides entertainment, which is good for what we kind of want here. So maybe we can place this in along here. Just gonna have a look at how this sits within the landscape. Definitely have room for a path up through here. Let's go ahead and connect this guy up. Make sure people can walk around here as easy as possible. Okay, don't worry, I haven't forgotten to show you guys the other things that we added. I'm just saving it till the end of the episode. Let's go from around the middle here and see if we can just connect these up. And then you see this little horrible brown gap that's appeared right now. We can go ahead and actually place some trees in this. Okay. So I think I definitely want a path that's gonna link up these areas here. That kind of flows between the quay and the road. Let's try and replace this one. There we go. So that creates us a nice little promenade. Now again, with these little nasty green spaces, I'm just going to go and come in and create a little bit of a palm frontage. So really just take your time with these areas. Don't try and rush them. Just slowly detail as you go along. You know, you want these areas to be special and not just another square gridded location. So right now we have a really nice kind of promenade developing along the lake here, which was the feel I wanted to go for. And just take your time with it. You know, you don't have to rush smashing in the zoning and think, you know, I've got to get all these squares filled. Just kind of slowly detail and kind of get a feel for every item that you place, how it makes the area feel. Mods will make this area look 1,000 times better, as mods always do in this game. But trying to keep this as console player friendly as possible. And for maybe people that don't enjoy playing with mods, you can create some really nice looking areas. You've got the castle in the background, the nice pier that's out on the lake. We've got the marina here as well, just about to come into shot. You know, some old castle ruins that have been kind of fenced off that, you know, they didn't want to demolish. You can make it look pretty sweet. I think that is going to leave it for today's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, a like below is very much appreciated. Equally as much if you hated the video, a dislike is more than welcome as well. This is just a little bit of part detailing we did to the police station, the farm village, and I'm just going to leave the outro camera cycling over the details that we did off camera so you guys can get a nice little look at them. But that's going to be it, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.